Hello, we are here today with Tora Moon, who's going to talk about all sorts of wonderful fantasy things and, if I'm not mistaken, some sci-fi?
I have a mix. Mine's a mashup.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on at the moment.
I'm unusual. I used to be a CPA, so I have that logic brain as well as the creative brain, and I much rather do this stuff. So I've been writing now forever, but seriously, yeah, it's like we won't talk about how long my first book that I haven't published yet took me.
I've been there. Yep.
Yes, I think it's longer than you've been alive.
Wow.
But I've always been interested in fantasy and sci-fi. It's my go-to genre that I like to read. Like I say, I like reading fantasy, sci-fi, and a little bit of fantasy romance thrown in for sugar. Yeah.
Okay. It's romantic subplot style, that sort of thing?
Yes, I have a little bit of that. I don't say my books are romance, but there's romance in there.
Yeah.
You have to have a little bit of love,
Yeah.
That makes life interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
My first series, The Legends of Lairheim, is completed.
Ooh.
So if anybody wants to read it, they can read the whole thing.
Yeah. How many books?
There are 5 books. There's one prequel.
Okay.
Redemption is a prequel. And then there's 4 books in the series.
Okay. And give me a little bit of a hint of what that's about. No spoilers, though, because I might read this at some point.
Starts in Ancient Enemies, where the life is good. They're fighting their monsters, and they've got a plan on how to do it, and they're becoming very efficient.
Okay.
And suddenly a new monster appears in the nest. One that's harder to destroy.
Ooh, dear.
And Rosalia is the only one who can hear it.
Oh.
And she starts getting visions. And starts realizing as the story progresses that their ancient enemies that they thought had been eliminated in the Great War 1,000 years ago are not gone.
Oops. Probably make sure your enemies are dead before you go and,
Yeah, not just exiled. Yeah.
Oops.
And then at the end of book 1, they get a prophecy that the only way that they can defeat their enemies is to find their ancient allies, which have fallen into myth and legend. And from their allies' point of view, which are the Fengriffs, which are like a griffin, only they can get light on fire.
Oh.
They're very intelligent and they mind speak. From their point of view, they were slaves. They don't really want to have anything to do with those affairs. So
these people have done themselves in.
Yes, they have. And at the end of book 2, they get their allies and think everything's great. And then a comet comes in. And it was, oh shit, it's not a comet. It's a spaceship.
Already. Oh, wait. All right. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. And in book 3, the Scourge incursion is the Scourge, which are aliens, very insectoidal. They look like insects and feed off of blood and emotions.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's like my worst nightmare is mutant mosquitoes right there.
Much bigger than mosquitoes. We're talking 6-7 foot. Yeah. Yeah. So I had that alien invasion coming in book 3, and I really debated whether I needed it. But things happen in book 3 that make book 4 possible. And they finally get rid of their enemies. And oh shit, their ancient enemies have escaped exile.
Oh dear.
And that's book 4.
These poor people.
These poor people, yes. And
Wow.
main character Rosalia, who kicks butt the entire way through,
Awesome.
has to grow into that leadership role, because at first she's like, I don't want anything to do with it. Her parents were famous leaders. She didn't want to do it. And finally, by book 4, she's accepted who she is.
Yeah. Well, bummer for her, but I mean, if she's good at it, then you might as well use your talents for good. Also, you sound like you torture your characters rather a lot. All of these events are so mean. Mostly the bug thing.
It makes good story. Yeah, and I did leave it open that there could be more in this series. Because they're a homogeneous society at this point. But when the alien invaders came, they brought with them a slave race, or several slave races, and one of them escaped. So now there's these interesting things that I could play with later with how do you introduce people who have different beliefs, different gods, different ways of doing things into a homogeneous society.
Ooh, that sounds lovely. Yeah. Also, language, because that sounds fun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my. Okay, this series sounds wonderful. And,
I use, since you like language, I use different words. I've come up with a few different words because they're not on Earth. This is not Earth. Right. So there are no Jims and Johns and Janes character names. And their time is divided by 8s.
Oh my.
So there's 8 months, 8 lunadars or weeks in a month. There's an octar is an hour more or less, but it's divided up in 8.
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh wow.
Because it takes about, the planet is a little bit smaller than this one, so it takes about 16 of our hours for a rotation.
Okay.
So I've thought about the world building.
You have done. How much research did you do?
I've done some. Like there's a prairie in there, so I had to do some research on prairies and how do they survive the wildfires? And it's the way that their rhizomes are underneath the dirt. So I did do some, and because my fingriffs are like griffins, and all of them are a type of raptor.
Yes, raptor research.
Yes, so at least the pictures and getting the pictures and seeing, the different kinds of hawks and eagles and owls are the scouts and.
Oh, how fun!
Yeah,
that sounds wonderful. And okay, so what are you working on now, or most recently? Because it sounds like you've got something else coming.
Yes, I'm working on the Sentinel Witches, which is an urban fantasy.
Oh.
And it's about an ancient organization of witches who fight demons. And these are demons from a lower dimension. So they are not like your charmed demons that look human.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there,
I'm looking
in the bed?
Yes, I've got some woodcuts and some pictures of, the old medieval pictures of demons.
Ooh.
And so I'm using some of those. There's a demon tarot deck. And so I pulled that. I've been using that to get inspiration on my demons on some of them.
Oh, wow.
And so because they're so ancient, their spells use Sumerian.
Oh, how exciting.
Yes. I found a Sumerian dictionary or 2.
Wow.
And I'm like pulling, because we don't know what ancient Sumerian sounded like, and
no.
Full sentences, and we've got some ideas from Gilgamesh and Inanna's Descent. In fact, I pulled Inanna's Descent in book 2. But there's words like Bara for fire, and
Oh, how fun! Yeah. Okay, so for your demons, is this going to be your traditional biblical demonology, or are you drawing from all sorts of things?
It's from, I guess, my own head. It's not biblical demonology because I don't do biblical stuff. I do ancient goddesses. So I pull in, like in book 1, Crossroads to Destiny, Catelyn, the main character, gets visited by Hecate and told, "You are the chosen one."
Oh dear.
And then in book 2, Descent into Darkness, it kind of pulls in some of the story of Inanna descending into the netherworld.
Wow. Okay, so you're doing some Greek. You've got, I don't remember Inanna.
Inanna is Babylonian Sumerian.
I knew somewhere close to that region. My geography is terrible. So.
Yeah, book 3 includes Brede or Bridget from the Ireland or Celtic tradition. It's the Well of Sorrows.
You're going all over the world for this.
Oh, yeah. I love goddess mythology, so I pull that in.
How fun. How much similarity do you see between the different cultures? Because I know some of them are sort of related.
When it comes to the goddesses, you can find that archetype in almost every culture you have. Like Brede is a creativity goddess.
Yeah.
And then you go to the Hindu tradition and you have Saraswati.
Yeah.
So there's some of those, Kali is very similar to the Morrigan in Celt.
Yeah. Oh boy. That sounds awesome. So how did you make the transition from your, I guess it's fantasy / sci-fi?
Yeah,
to kind of urban fantasy.
I think it's all the same. It's fantasy, magic, whether it's on this world or a different world. It sparks the imagination and you go, what if magic really existed here? And damn, am I bummed that it isn't.
Well, that we're aware of.
So, playing with those things of how would you react if you saw a dragon or a unicorn? Or saw this weird creature that had a goat leg in it on one leg and then a chicken leg on the other, and a crab appendage on one, and it was like, how would you react?
Let's see here. I'd probably start yelling in Russian. Seems to be my go-to panic language. Don't know why.
Cool. That's cool.
I don't know why. But and then part 2 would be running away. Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, well, if you believe in magic and then you see that it exists, because in Catelyn, in the Sentinel Witches, she's your sound healer, energy healer, tarot reader, and still not sure magic exists.
Oh dear. She's in for quite the ride then.
Yes. And then the second main character, Sean McLarkin, is a police detective. So this first book is kind of a psychological, supernatural thriller.
Oh.
Because he's chasing a serial killer that they call the Iron Maiden Killer.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Oh my. Okay, so fantasy, psychological thriller. Yes, you've hit all of my checkboxes.
Yeah, I don't like to straight out, Legends of Laerheim really started out as a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood. Then this characters grabbed hold of the story and changed it.
Don't you hate it when that happens?
It makes a much better story, but
But they should be obeying the writer.
Maybe. So I now have an idea for Little Red Riding Hood in space.
Okay, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we gotta put some dragons in there too, besides the werewolves,
Yeah, space dragons, absolutely. Absolutely. Why not? Okay, so that's fantastic. Okay, so you worked as a CPA and you're fairly familiar with all of the business end of things. How do you find that as a self-published author? Because I know that's a bit different than your traditional business world.
Many of the same principles apply, and I think authors, especially indie authors, need to treat their writing as a business.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a book about that.
Oh.
Yeah. Money Management for Authors.
Uh-huh.
An easy to understand guide to business and accounting. And it's from an author point of view, because talking about using ISBNs, your distribution, whether you want to do exclusive with Kindle Unlimited or if you want to go wide, those are all business decisions. And it sometimes is based on your book, your personality. So I go into all of that, and I find that there is a mix. You have to treat your writing as a business if you want to be a full-time writer. Yeah. If you're just doing it for hobby, that's a different thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But if you want this as a long-term career, you have to treat it like a business.
Yeah. I would probably agree with you, even though my business background is being created as we speak.
Yeah, you can learn. Yeah, it's one of those things that you can learn to do it. Yeah. Just have to find the right resources and you can learn to do it.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the best strategy you would recommend for creating your marketing base? Business base, I guess, would be.
Well, for a marketing base is do your cross promotions with other authors, with the book funnels. Love book funnel.
Yes.
Yeah. That helps you build your mailing list because you don't own anything on Facebook.
No.
But you own your mailing list. So if Facebook changes, you can still connect with your readers that are on your mailing list. And for best business advice, general would be set up your business as a company, whether that's doing business as, which is the easiest in all states, usually not very much money, that at least makes you a business.
Yeah.
And then run all of your expenses and income through that business, and then the IRS can't come back and say, oh, you've just a hobby.
Yeah, the IRS is a bit tricky about that sort of a thing.
Yeah, whereas at least if you're acting and you've set up as a business and you're doing everything, the same things that a business is doing, they have a harder time doing that.
Yes, and that's a good thing because the IRS is the scariest monster I know.
Not that scary.
Well, then you are obviously more prepared than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just what your perspective is. I've worked in accounting, and I've had like one or two clients out of all the clients.
Oh, really?
Have an audit.
Okay. Good to know. That makes things a little less terrifying for people like me.
As long as you do what's right, you're not going to get in trouble.
Okay.
It's the people who try to, play the system.
Yes. That usually doesn't end well.
Yeah. It doesn't end well. Yeah.
Well, good to know. All right. As far as the writing process, what's your least favorite bit? Because everyone has one. And it can include the publishing process as well.
Marketing. I love coming up with the idea. I like doing the what ifs and writing the first draft. I'm more of a pantser than I am a plotter. Yeah. I found from my writing process, I need to do a little bit of plotting. Just more of, okay, here's my story arc. This is where it begins. Here's where it ends. Here's some of the major things that I think might happen.
Right. Oh, wait, that you think might happen?
That I think might happen. And then you start, and I write linearly. So I write from the beginning to the end. I know some people write in different pieces, and I have to okay, this happened, now what happens next? To kind
Right.
of follow it through the characters' lives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of like I'm sitting on their shoulder watching them and, you know, transcribing what happens. So I need a little bit just so I know some of where the story's going. And then the characters surprise you. And I think that's the best thing about it is you go, ooh, this is cool. I don't know why I'm writing this. Like in Redemption, Histron is fighting against a clan alpha who has decided he's greedy and he's not doing what taking care of his people is all about him.
Ooh, not so good.
And then in fighting him, he notices he's got these black sickness patches on him. Oh. And the people who are going this other path also have it. And when I wrote it, I go, that's cool. I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Don't know why it's there. I'm going with it. Got to book 4 and near the end of 3, and I went, oh, that's why they're there.
Oh, I love those moments.
Yeah. And I was really debated whether to write book 3, The Scourge Incursion, because it's got this alien invasion and an epic fantasy. Go figure.
Yeah.
It's like, why? Yeah. And it's like there were things that happened while they were in the slave camp that allowed them to defeat their enemies in book. So if that hadn't happened, and things happened that allowed the enemies to escape their exile. So if book 3 didn't happen, book 4 couldn't be.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what does your editing process look like if you have no idea what's going to happen? Do you go back and connect events, or?
I have a pretty good memory, so things tend to connect on their own. And it's like, I hear all these stories. I've got to go back and check this and this. I go, I don't do that. Am I bad? I do a lot of what's called rolling edits.
Okay.
Where I'll edit, like chapter 1 may have been edited 10 times by the time I get to chapter 10. Part of it is I'm rereading, and then it's like, when I find something down here in like chapter 10, and it's like, ooh, I got to fix that. And I'll go back and fix it.
Yeah.
I don't do my rough drafts aren't puking on the page like a lot of people's are. It's like I'm thinking as I'm writing and changing as I go. So by the time I get to the end, I just have a few not loose ends to pull together.
Well, you've got this pantsing thing down to an art, it sounds like. That's impressive.
So I do have a critique now.
Yeah.
Friends who love it. Yeah.
So useful. I love
very
critique partners.
Yeah. It helps not only your story to get better, just by them reading and commenting on it, but it helps your writing become better because you see things in their writing that you don't pick up on your own.
Yes.
And then you go, oh, she's doing this and this. I'm doing that in my writing. You find the light, and the light picks up. Or, like my partner, really good with metaphors. And, she's got this beautiful language, and it really gets deep into the emotions.
Ooh.
I'm good with the action. And so we're both learning from each other and reading each other's styles and making changes on her manuscript. I go, oh, I'm making that same mistake, or I can do better on my own. And it just makes you a better writer when you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving slightly sideways to your writing, is there a story out there that you wish you had written? And this can be in any form at all.
Story I wish I had written. Harry Potter. Yeah.
Okay. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah. For the stories she told, she did it very well.
She did.
Enough that it captured, it's still capturing people's imaginations. And what is it, 20 years old now? It's a long time.
I think it was 20 years this last fall.
Yeah.
Which is amazing because they keep putting out more and the world building just expands and the characters and like, wait, hold on. I read this when I was younger and now how old are you reading this? Okay. Huh. So it keeps going and I love that.
And the second one would be The Dragon Riders of Pern.
Oh, that's a good one
and
too.
McCaffrey's writing. It's like I've had one of my reviews compared me to Anne McCaffrey, Mercedes, and Andre Norton. And I said, yes! All of my heroes.
Well, I mean, it explains where your fantasy / sci-fi mix came in.
Yeah. It's like her Dragon Riders of Pern is just any world that I could go to would be that world, as long as I could be a Dragon Rider.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or a Harper. That could be fun too.
A Harper would be fun too, because I like music and I like writing music and singing, and so Harper would be fun too. So I like drumming, so yeah, I could be a Harper.
Okay, so you do music as well as writing. Is there anything else you do creative-wise? You a secret, Da Vinci?
No, wish. I do handcrafts like knitting and crocheting for my. Just had a granddaughter, and
Congrats.
And my daughter was doing her nursery in elephant theme, so I found a elephant rug that I crocheted for my granddaughter. It's like 5 feet long. Need a tiny one. It's a big area rug.
Okay, how long did that take?
A few weeks. It was. You use like big needle and like 3 strands of yarn, so it worked up really fast.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have moved completely from finance into the creative world.
Yes, that's where I'd like to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand that completely. Absolutely. Alrighty. So do you have any common traps and tricks that writers seem to fall into, especially for those trying to get into the industry? Anything they should avoid?
Head hopping. My pet peeve is like if I can't figure out who is the story's mind coming from, I shut the book.
Oh, really?
I don't, it's like if I can't figure out who's talking, whose point of view the story's in, it's like, you've lost me. I shut the book. And you can't just say one paragraph in this one point of view and then go on.
Yeah.
It's like, head hopping drives me nuts. So I try very hard not to do it in my own writing. I don't mind, I don't mind if you change point of views in the next scene.
Right.
Or chapter or whatever. Like books 3 and 4 have 4 point of view characters in them.
Sure.
I was trying to write 5. 5 was one too many. So his story is going to be a spin-off. It was one of the slave species characters. And it was like I started writing and it was like, no, this is giving too much information about the aliens, and I wanted them to be scarier. If you knew who they were, you wouldn't be scared with them.
Oh, I don't know. I'd probably still be a bit freaked out.
The other thing, not treating it like a business. It's like there's a lot of help out there.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it all alone. And it's like, even though we're independent authors, I don't do this all by myself. I know my limits. I'm not a graphic designer.
No.
So I hire my covers done. I hire out editing because you can't catch all of your own mistakes. You need that second pair of eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need that second pair of eyes just to give you perspective sometimes. We can learn from other authors, talking and listening to podcasts with other authors, or the author groups on Facebook. There's a few that are really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I have found a lot of people out there in the writing communities on Facebook. Has a few groups that I think I've got 5 groups now, which is getting a bit overwhelming. And then, all of the social media. I was surprised at how little drama there is in the writing community itself.
There really isn't, especially the indie community. And one of the things that I love about it is this idea of competition isn't there. It's like we're not competing against each other. No. Just because somebody buys my book doesn't mean they're not going to buy your book and enjoy it.
Right.
In fact, if they buy my book, they might like your book.
Exactly. Absolutely. And also other writers are likely to read my book or your book or any book.
Yeah. Or other authors, other just readers, because
we're kind of the target audience.
Yeah. And we don't have to fight over readers because a reader likes me or buys my book, doesn't mean they're not going to buy somebody else's book. They could be totally out of a genre, but it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I really love about it. And I love the helping each other. Doing the cross promotions, or this is what I learned. And I really like the Facebook groups where they say, this is my experience. This is what I learned from it.
Absolutely.
I like the
very helpful.
Very helpful. And I like the end posts, that, hey, I did it. Even if it's their 30th book, they're still celebrating that they did it. And it's just as much of a celebration as the person who just finished their first book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, the writing world. It has become one of my favorite places to be.
Yes, and I wish more businesses would look at what's going on in the indie publishing world and follow the same principles.
Yes. I definitely agree with you. I think the business world is a bit crazy.
Yes.
Anyways, I should probably get back to talking about actual writing. So a question I ask everybody, and I seem to get similar answers, but I'm curious if you've got something different, is what is the best money you ever spent as a writer?
Best money I ever spent as a writer. My first developmental edit.
Oh.
Yes, that helped me a lot to see where the story plot holes were.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just for that story. There was a lot of learning that happened in that, and I think that was some of the best money I've spent.
Yeah, I love getting the developmental edits back. They're so helpful.
Yeah. And the second one was getting good covers.
Yes, that's the one.
I love my covers.
Do you have... I see you've got a stack, and can you show off some of your covers for me?
Yes.
So this is your...
Redemption.
Wow, that is lovely.
Yeah, that's Redemption. This is the first book, Ancient Enemies.
Ooh. There. It's got the monster on the side. Oh, I like that.
Oh, yes. They managed to get that. This is Ancient Allies. And they managed to get the Fengrip in it.
Very cool.
The Scourge Incursion. And it's because it happens in the Barrens, which is very desolate. And there's no life that exists there. That's why I wanted a very desolate landscape on there.
I like it.
And then the last book.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's beautiful. It's got like stars and everything. Or at least it looks like stars.
Snow.
Yeah, okay.
And it's very much a you shall not pass.
Ooh.
Which is part of what that book's about. Is you
boy.
shall not pass. You shall not get through the pass.
All right, that is lovely, and it makes me want to read the series even more. Okay, so do you have anything else you would like to add before we wrap things up? It'd be writing related or not.
Writing related or not. Oh, one of the biggest hints that I can give new writers, read. And read some more. Because when you read, you pick up the nuances of the story.
Yeah.
And you pick up the tropes. And the ones that readers are expecting. You know, I see these posts all the time of, oh, I want to write romance or I want to write thriller. Well, how many books have you read? None. We'll read about 100 first.
Yeah, I have seen that happen a few times where, this is my first foray into the field, and it didn't end well.
Yeah, because they don't know the tropes.
Right.
And tropes are there for a reason. There's some bad tropes. But magic and fantasy, that's a trope.
Yes, absolutely.
Spaceships is a trope for science fiction. If you don't have those elements, then you don't have a fantasy or you don't have a science fiction. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, so many books to read. So many books to read. So little time. That is one problem I have, is not enough time to read the books.
Yeah, one of the things I've tried doing is when I do the when I try doing the cross promotions, is I try picking up at least one or two books in the promotion to read.
Yes.
And then I do a review to my readers. I don't post it on Amazon because that can get us in trouble since we're authors. Yeah, but I do post it on my website. I do send it to my readers. Yeah, and I like reading indie authors because they cross boundaries that traditionals don't. Yeah.
Well, it has been absolutely wonderful talking with you. I have learned all sorts of things, especially about pantsing, because apparently I need to let my characters have a bit more free reign and make things more interesting. And maybe I'll get an alien invasion out of it. Who knows?
That or something else.
Yeah. Yep. I don't want to know what my characters have in mind. I'm just going to let them have free reign and see what happens.
Yes, and it's usually good. It's usually better than what you could think up yourself.
Yes.
Or at least what your conscious mind could think up to yourself.
Oh, you never know. Some days my conscious mind is far away.
And that's why we love writing, is we get to go do that escape and we get to discover those stories first.
Absolutely. Oh, yes, indeed. Well, thank you for coming on. Thank you for chatting with me.
Thank you very much for having me. I am fun.